Hi, Martin Cowan, contributing editor. It's tnoozLIVE at ITB, presented by Travelaer. Next up, we've got Eric Gnock, who's president and COO of Klook, which is a Asia-Pacific-based tours and activities platform, but just having picked up some funding, I think it was October last year, you're looking to move outside of Asia-Pacific. So just give us an idea about what Klook is and your plans for the future.
Sure. So as you mentioned, we're Asia's largest platform that specializes in the in-destination services. So we've started using in-destination because on the category that we're covering is actually getting wider and wider. So we started with tours and activities and attractions, and then now we've added local transfers and railways, and adding some also food and dining options. So there's more and more categories we're going to add within the trip. So we're calling it in-destination services.
Okay, so it's not tours and activities.
Not just tours and activities.
Tours and activities.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And you said they're very much so in destination. And one thing I wanted to ask you was, that's quite a very focused area of focus. But I mean, I'm just wondering in terms of trying to get people to book the services before they depart. Is that something that you're interested in, or do you think there's enough business going on in destination that's a good enough focus?
For our business, right now, if you look at the numbers, around 50% of our users are using our mobile app and booking while they're in the destinations, so really much during the trip. And we see this trend is going to be even more so because travel is getting a lot more spontaneous. The younger travelers especially, they don't really like to pre-plan. They would be doing research, so the website, the content we produce will be useful, but the action of actually making a decision to book, we find that it's actually still very much in the destinations. So we think that will continue to be our strategy going forward.
Okay, so in terms of sourcing the inventory, let's talk about that. So you've got the tours and activities, the traditional established, the museums and the bucket list destinations, but then you've also talked about, food and dining options. So how do you sort of source that inventory and get it into your app so that when I'm in London, I could just go to the Klook app and book a restaurant? How does that inventory get into your system?
Right. So we're launching all these categories by phase. So there'll be more categories actually in Asia because that's where we were from. It's more mature. So we now have all the tours and activities and then all the attractions on. There's still actually more long tail operators that we have yet to be onboarded. So that's kind of an ongoing process, and then bringing on, let's say, transfer, railways, and some of the food and dining options. As a matter of fact, I think in Asia, there hasn't been anyone has consolidated these, what we call point of interest. Unlike in the US and Europe, there has been here and there some SaaS solution or maybe GDS type that existed for a certain category. In Asia, that actually pretty much blank page. So we had to really build our own sales team to go out there and sign up every single inventory and POI onto the platform in Asia. While our strategy in Europe and US, I think that will be a little bit more balanced. We will speak to the direct operators and the attractions, and in fact, a lot of them come to us because they're really keen about the Asia fast-growing travel segment and how to tap that, and especially the millennials travelers, which is a free independent travelers. But at the same time, I think for say a more long-tail product, we will also collaborate with some of these SaaS solution or reservation system, as we may call it, to get that inventory, as well as just it's a lot more efficient because it's already been rolled out into their daily operations.
Okay, so in terms of sort of your core Asia Pacific points of sales, I mean, what's the the customer acquisition landscape like in Asia Pacific? So you've got the inventory, you've got the points of interest, you've got the full suite of long tail and mainstream attractions. So, but how do you attract the customers? What's the challenges that you face there?
Right. Well, we look at it on two ends. One is pre-trip, as we mentioned earlier, and then there's also during the trip, right? On the pre-trip end, obviously there are the common marketing strategies like, say, digital advertising, SEM, and so forth. But those actually is a small portion of our acquisition methods in terms of traffic. We spend actually a lot more resources on content marketing that really shines the brand, put the spotlight on the brand. And with that, we also collaborate with a lot of, say, tourism boards, right? Most of the Asia tourism boards collaborate with us to create content to make that destination a lot more engaging, a lot more influential. And that really get the customer interested, and then they will make the booking. Because if you think about it nowadays in Asia, with budget airlines, getting anywhere is actually very easy. So it's almost about telling them, hey, what's fun in, say, Kyoto? Rather than always going to Tokyo, let's go to Kyoto. And why would they go to Kyoto is the content. So that's why we spend a lot of resources on the content,
so that's also
pre-trip.
So that's almost like a sort of like an inspirational site. So you will write about Kyoto, and people will come to the site to read about Kyoto, and then hopefully they will then use that to book.
Yes.
Okay. And in terms of your international expansion, I mean, is that going to be a similar approach to trying to build points of sales in the US and Europe? Will it still be content led? I mean, how do you think you're going to crack Europe and the US?
For Europe and US, well, first we're cracking the supply first, because we are going to serve the Asian travelers that's going to outbound into the US and Europe, the long haul markets. In terms of that, I think the strategy would be to bring on, of course, the mainstream point of interest first. As a matter of fact, most of the people that are coming to US and Europe from Asia are probably the first and second time. So no matter what, we'll still be going to the mainstream attractions, so doing some of those mainstream things to do for probably this year, right? And then going forward into next year and the year after, we'll also see the trend whereby it's more frequent traveling from Asia to here, right? Second time, third time to London is not just going to be the London eye, right? We're going to look for kind of the local experience, a differentiated off the beaten path experience, and gradually we'll also bring that on to the platform. And that's something that we've already went through in Asia, right? Because within Asia, the frequency of traveling is a lot higher. So we have the mainstream, but at the same time, we do bring on a lot of the long tail operators to really complement the whole portfolio of experiences.
Okay, so that's so the Asia Pacific inbound into Europe and the US. I mean, what about the sort of intra-European? Are you looking to open up Klook to Europeans traveling within Europe? I mean, so it's almost like there's two separate customer bases. There's the Asia Pacific, and then there's the people who are not from Asia Pacific. I mean, how important do you think the non-Asia Pacific travelers are going to be to the business moving forward?
I think right now we have about 10% of our users that are not from Asia Pacific. So it's users from Europe and US who are inbound into Asia, and that has been very much an organic kind of drive because we haven't put much resources on that end. But we definitely see the trend of this picking up, especially with the upcoming Tokyo Olympics in 2020, right? And then Beijing Winter Olympics in 2022. A lot is happening within Asia over the next few years, and hence we're going to see this influx of Europeans and American travelers coming to Asia. And I think naturally we've been positioned as the Asia expert, right? So we are going to build a team here to target the European outbound into Asia. That will be the strategy up and coming as well.
Okay, and you think the sort of the Tokyo Olympics and the Chinese Winter Olympics in Beijing, you think that's going to sort of raise the profile of Klook to Europeans coming for these specific events, and then hopefully when Klook's more active in Europe, they will have a familiarity with Klook that they will then go to the thing. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so is Europe or the US? Do you see those as two distinct markets in terms of your expansion plans, or are you looking to do both?
We are looking at doing both. However, we did do Europe first because we just set up, actually after the funding last time, we set up our first office in Amsterdam. We have a small team now and continue to build on that office, as well as actually hiring people all around Europe as well. First, as I mentioned, to build out the supply side. Why we choose Europe first is because of the familiarity of Asian travelers to Europe more, and as a matter of fact, it is somehow slightly closer, and there's actually a lot more cultures. There's a lot more different countries that's happening. So we believe that it has a lot more potential. Hence, that's why we started with Europe first. However, having said that, we are actively seeking talent in the US as well, specifically probably in, like, say, San Francisco and New York, which are also popular destinations.
Okay, so just generally, I mean, presumably the plan is just to grow the business, to grow the customer base, to grow the inventory. I mean, is there anything else on the agenda in terms of almost like the product set? I mean, we talked earlier about it's not just the London Eye. It's it's the restaurants and the rail and everything. So what's the sort of the expansion plans?
Yeah, well, in terms of investment, one I mentioned is on the POI, right, on the supply side inventory.
That's points of interest.
Points of interest. And then on the demand side, as I mentioned, we'll be driving Asia to outbound into Europe and US, and then also driving American and European travelers inbound into Asia. So that's on the demand side. And the third thing that we're investing now is actually on technology. I mean, end of the day, we are a tech company at the core. We are building actually a machine learning team right now in China as well as actually in Singapore to have 2 hubs. The reason why we are actually very hopeful and find this very promising is if 70% of our business actually happens on mobile, right? And on mobile, it's actually really hard to present so many different options, right? Because the screen is so small. Yeah. And we've really gathered a lot of data over the past 3 to 4 years. So now, how to use machine learning to further understand the customer, right? Their preferences, their habits, and then to be able to really personalize that will really gear towards a mobile usage for travel. And I think that our machine learning will be really tailored for the mobile concept.
Okay, so that's basically based out of your hubs in sort of Singapore.
In Singapore and as well as in China, because there's a lot of talent in China, and in fact Chinese engineers and are really front running on the AI, the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we actually have already a team there, but at the same time we'll be building another hub as well in Singapore to complement, to have the China innovation, but as well as understanding what's happening in global, broader in Asia.
Okay, I mean that's fascinating. And one of the great things about sort of tnoooz is sort of like the global nature of what we do. And it's great that I'm here talking to a guy from Mauritius who's based in Asia Pacific, that's got funding from Silver Lake, who's going to be launching in Europe, who's got an office in Amsterdam. So.
Indeed.